Hello, I am continuing my Beatles review, and this time I'm reviewing Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. So this was the 8th studio album by the Beatles, and it was released on the 26th of May 1967. And this was actually released on the exact same day as David Bowie's first album. So yeah, a bit of an interesting bit of history there. And yeah, this is regarded as one of the greatest and most influential albums of all time. Like, this is an iconic album. This is an absolute masterpiece. And yeah, and this album cover has been parodied many times. It's been ripped off. Like the same later on this year, the Rolling Stones released their Satanic Majesty's Request, and the album cover it's very similar to this. Yeah, because I think the Rolling Stones they were accused of trying to beat the Beatles. And yeah, I love the Rolling Stones, as you all know, and I actually do love Satanic Majesty's Request. I don't look at it as a Sgt. Pepper rip-off. I think they're just... I mean, everybody was doing psychedelic rock in 1967. It's just a thing that happened. Another fun fact about this, in the same studio, I think Beatles were recording in a different room, but in the room next door to them, Pink Floyd were recording Piper at the Gates of Dawn, which was their first album. So that's another interesting fact. They were actually on the track Lovely Rita, which is on here. That echo effect that you hear at the end of the song. On one of the tracks on Piper at the Gates of Dawn, they actually use a very similar echo effect from that song, and I think it was because of that song that Pink Floyd decided to use that effect on their album. So yeah, Beatles and Pink Floyd in the same studio, and I love Floyd as well, especially Piper at the Gates of Dawn. I still rate that as my favourite Floyd album, believe it or not. But yeah, let's get on to Sgt. Pepper's. So let's go through the tracks. So it opens up with the short but brilliant title track. So it begins with this like audience noises, like audience applause, and so yeah, the Beatles are basically, this is a concept album basically, and the Beatles are basically playing a fictional band called Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. So yeah, this is basically like the introduction to their show. But yeah, it's a great way to open the album. It's such a great song. It's short but brilliant. And then that sort of goes into With a Little Help from My Friends. It kind of is like almost one song. It's two songs put together, because after Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band ends, you have the audience. You have the audience noises that go straight into With a Little Help from My Friends. And yeah, so With a Little Help from My Friends is the Ringo Starr song, and yeah, this is fantastic. It's got great lyrics. I love the piano and the harmonies that you hear with John and Paul. Yeah, it's probably one of my favourite Ringo songs. Obviously, the first one being Yellow Submarine. You probably know that if you saw my Revolver review. And track 3 is Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. This is a brilliant song. Another classic. And it's very trippy. And yeah, this song was actually based off of a drawing by John Lennon's son, Julian. So yeah, Julian Lennon, who had a friend at school, at play school, called Lucy, and yeah, he drew this picture of her and she was floating in the sky with diamonds. So yeah, the picture was called Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, and it inspired John to write that song. 'Cause John loved the drawing, so he decided to make it into a song. And yeah, this was a controversial song because people thought that the song was about LSD, because it's Lucy L, Sky S, and then Diamonds D, LSD. But no, it's ridiculous. It's a trippy song, yeah. I can understand why people might think it would be about LSD, but it's actually not. But it's brilliant though. The lyrics are very dreamy. Like, this song is a work of art, and it's just, I absolutely love it. I love that keyboard that's played on it. I believe it's a Lowry organ. I believe that's what it's called. Yeah, that iconic keyboard that it opens with. And there's a bit of tambura as well, which is the Indian instrument that's used on here. There's use of the Leslie effect, which is a guitar effect, like that rotating effect that's played through the Leslie guitar speaker. That's used during the chorus. Especially love the harmonies during the chorus with John, Paul, and George. And yeah, there's also use of phasing on here as well, especially during the final chorus. Yeah, it's just so many different effects, and yeah, this was the Beatles at their. They were really creative when they stopped touring. I mean, the early stuff is great. As you all know, I love the early albums, but the later albums I definitely prefer. I find they got more creative. So yeah, Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, brilliant song. Absolutely brilliant. It's possibly my favourite on this album, but and again, I think I love them. I love them all. I think they're all great on this album. Track 4 is Getting Better all the time. A lovely song. It's a bit of a simple song compared to some of the other tracks on the album, but it's still absolutely great. It's got a nice guitar riff. It's got some good lyrics it's got a bit of a nasty lyric in it as well. There's a lyric where he says, "I used to be cruel to my woman. I beat her and kept her apart from the things that she loved." Not very nice at all. It is absolutely horrible. But apart from that, it's a brilliant song. But yeah, that lyric, it's nasty. But it's actually based on John. I mean, Paul sings lead vocals on here, but the bit where he says that, it was actually John. Like, I don't really like to talk about like what some famous, because you have some famous people who, some of them are good people, some not so good people who did things that were bad. And yeah, that's what John used to do. But yeah, I don't really want to go into full detail, but yeah, that's what the lyric in this song is referring to. It's basically referring to John. So I think he wrote that lyric, but it's just Paul that sings it. And yeah, there's a bit of tambura on here as well, that Indian instrument. Yeah, during the bit where it says, "I used to be cruel to my woman," there's a tambura, and yeah, it's brilliant. And then we got Fixing a Hole. Fixing a Hole is a great song. It's another Paul McCartney track. On this one, it has a harpsichord. So yeah, very good lyrics. And I think in this one, Paul is basically singing about. It's like he had a lot of like fans who were waiting outside standing outside his house, and like wanting to go into his house to talk to him. But yeah, it's fantastic lyrics, and I love the guitar solo on this as well. And track 6 is She's Leaving Home. Now, this is a beautiful song. It's very similar to Eleanor Rigby. There's no guitar on here. There's no drums. It's string arrangements, violins and cellos. And there's also a harp on here as well. And yeah, it's sung by Paul McCartney, so it's basically like a sequel to Eleanor Rigby. But John also does join in during the chorus. But yeah, this is a beautiful song. Absolutely wonderful. And then apparently this song, I know it because I'm sure you're all familiar with the Paul is Dead hoax. There's like an urban legend that says that Paul McCartney died on the 9th of November 1966 in a car accident. And the first lyric in this song is Wednesday morning at 5 o'clock. And that's when this supposed accident took place. Because 9th of November 1966 was a Wednesday, and the car accident supposedly took place at 5 in the morning. We all know it didn't happen. I don't believe in it. I mean, it's an interesting topic. It's an interesting urban legend, and the Beatles were like putting like hidden clues in their songs, but no, I think it's just an urban legend. I know that Paul McCartney is alive and well. But yeah, and then next we get to track 7, Being for the Benefit of Mr. Kite. This is a great song. It's basically a circus song. I think John got the idea of this song he saw a circus poster, and it inspired him to write this song. So it's basically a circus song. Yeah, there's harpsichords on here. There's some sort of like pipe, like circus organ used on here, and there's like animal sound effects. Yeah, it's basically a circus song, but it's very good. It's very, very good. And this song was actually controversial because there's a lyric where Henry the horse, which obviously he's referring to a horse called Henry, but Henry the horse was actually a slang term for heroin. So yeah, this song was banned from being played on the radio because of Henry the horse, because they thought it was referencing drugs. Yeah, but it was the BBC. The BBC are idiots, if you ask me. And yeah, there's been some fantastic TV shows done by the BBC, but BBC are idiots. And then track 8, we get the George Harrison song, Within You, Without You. So this is an Indian song, pretty similar to Love You Too from Revolver, but this one's even more Indian sound. Like, this one doesn't even have any guitars on it. It's sitars, tamburas, and bongos, or is it a bongo? Not, what's that other African drum? Djembe. So yes, djembe drum. So yeah, this is a great song. Apparently, a lot of Beatles fans really hate this song. According to what I've read on the internet, this is actually not a very popular song amongst Beatles fans. But I absolutely love this song. I honestly don't know why it gets all this hate. I think it's a fantastic song. The lyrics are very brilliant. They're absolutely brilliant as well. It's very haunting as well, especially if you just sit there and listen to it. It does something to you. Absolutely fabulous song. And track 9 is the Paul song, When I'm 64. Again, this is just a fun song. It's simple. This is actually a song this was actually written during the early days of the Beatles. I think this was written during, I I think during the Hamburg years, like before the Beatles became famous. But yeah, it's just basically just one of Paul's, like, it's what John referred to as granny music. But yeah, I like these songs that Paul does. I like his silly songs. He's done some great, like, serious rock songs as well, but I love his silly songs. And this is one of my favourites. It's got really nice lyrics, basically just asking his partner or his wife, if she'll still feel the same way about him when he's 64 years old. And of course, it's different now because he's already been 64. He's 80 now. He's still going. Absolute legend. And yeah, he's happy. And I hope he'll be with us for many more years. I love the guy. He's brilliant. And then track 10, we get Lovely Rita. And yeah, the story behind this is very interesting. Paul McCartney got a ticket for speeding. And yeah, the song was written about the meter maid. And obviously, I don't actually know if her name was Rita, but apparently Paul mentioned he called the song Lovely Rita because he just said that he just assumed that she was called Rita because she looked like a Rita. So he just assumed that was her name. And yeah, it's very psychedelic towards the end. As I mentioned before, it has got those echoed vocals at the end, which is very similar to what Pink Floyd kind of copied that on one of the tracks on Piper at the Gates of Dawn. Can't remember which track it was. But yeah, I do love that album by Floyd. And track 11 is Good Morning, Good Morning. And yeah, this is another underrated song on the album. I really, really love this song. John Lennon's song. And yeah, I love the guitar solo. I love the it's got really just fun lyrics, and I love the animal noises at the end. The dogs barking, the elephant noises. Now, some see this as just filler. I don't think it's a filler track. I think it's a great song. But yeah. And then track 12 is the reprise of Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. So it's basically the same track as the opening track, but it's different. The lyrics are different, and it's a lot faster than the first version. So yeah, because the opening track was them welcoming the audience to their show, and then in this one they're basically saying goodbye. And it's time to go, but still great. And then we get the encore at the end, A Day in the Life. One of the greatest songs ever written, if you ask me. It's just like it's definitely, I definitely consider this progressive rock. Like by this time, this is when this is when progressive rock was kind of, it hadn't quite started yet, but it kind of began in '67. Pink Floyd's first album, Piper at the Gates of Dawn, it was a psychedelic rock album, but it had bits of progressive rock in it, and yeah, Day in the Life I think is responsible for progressive rock. I think this definitely did inspire progressive rock. It's just so haunting, especially the lyrics. They're so haunting. And this is another song that got banned from being played on the radio because, again, the BBC thought they were referencing drugs. The lyric when John says, "I'd love to turn you on," I don't see what that's got to do with drugs. And then Paul sings a section. It's basically like two songs in one. So you get Paul sings a section of it, and then it goes back to John's, and and then the string orchestra as it builds up and builds up and builds up, and then it stops, and then you have that final haunting piano chord at the end. It's absolutely brilliant. And not to mention there's some great drum fills on here as well, because a lot of people think that Ringo Starr wasn't a very good drummer. I think he's a fucking legend. And yeah, and then you get that, and then after Day in the Life, I think on some versions of Sgt. Pepper, I think on all UK copies of the album, it has that, of course, that inner groove at the end. But I think on the American copy, it didn't have that. But yeah, it has it on this CD. But yeah, I mean, yeah, Sgt. Pepper is definitely a brilliant album. It's an essential album. And yeah, I can't recommend this enough. I mean, I shouldn't imagine there's a lot of people who don't know this album. But if you don't, I have to recommend it. It's fantastic. And yeah, it's considered one of the greatest albums of all time. I agree. It's not my absolute favourite Beatles album, but it's definitely in my top 5. It's probably my 3rd or 4th favourite. But yeah, it's an absolutely essential album. I mean, yeah, it's right up there with Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon, David Bowie's Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars, Cream's Disraeli Gears, the Rolling Stones' Sticky Fingers. It's right up there with all those classic albums. Bob Dylan's Highway 61 Revisited. It's right up there with all those albums that you just have to hear. And I know there's a lot of people who think that this album is overrated, but nah, I strongly disagree with that. And to be honest, I've mentioned this in one of my previous videos. I actually made a whole video on the word overrated, saying that it's actually a word that I don't like the word overrated. It's not a word that I like using. Like, if I don't like something, I just say I don't like it. I'll just say, if it's not for me, then I'll just say it's not for me. It's not my thing. But I don't just say, oh, it's overrated. And, stop pretending like it's not overrated. Overrated is it's not a word that I use. But yeah, and this album is definitely not overrated in my opinion. No, it deserves all the praise it gets, and I'm giving it a 10 out of 10. You probably knew I was going to give it a 10. But yeah, this is a 10 out of 10 album. I mean, it's perfect. I couldn't really say anything negative about it, except maybe for that lyric that dodgy lyric that I mentioned on Getting Better. But, but I'm still giving it a 10. I just can't not give this a 10 out of 10. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this review, and my next review will be on Magical Mystery Tour. Yes, I am going to be including Magical Mystery Tour, which I know wasn't originally intended as an album by the Beatles, but I know it was originally released as an EP in the UK by the Beatles, but then it later became a full album. But yeah, we'll talk more about that when we get to that review. So I hope you enjoyed this review, and I'll see you later.